And I think the biggest thing I've noticed with 4-0s from their play is just that there's too much spacing between them. There's too many winners that are being hit through the middle. And then when balls do go through the middle that are slow, there's a lot of paddle clanking that gets done. So you definitely want to have communication. And you want to have some sort of feeling of like you're a team with your partner and you know who's taking what. But at the end of the day, I think a good quick fix is just to be a little closer together, especially when you're at the kitchen. I think you guys are too far from each other in general. It creates too much space in the middle and it makes it harder to cover that middle. And if you watch the pros, you'll see almost always they are simply closer together than players of lower levels. And I do not think that that is a coincidence. Thanks for watching another one of my shows, my episodes. We are going to now talk about the benefits of playing singles and how that can help your doubles game, because I know a lot of players are just, people that only play singles or mostly just only play doubles. I was somebody that pretty much only played doubles, and now after playing Red Rock, I had a great tournament in Red Rock, super lucky and appreciative to have that type of weekend. Got to the quarterfinals of singles and the semifinals of doubles, or mixed doubles, that is. Had a great overall weekend, and I think that the singles that I played actually helped me in mixed doubles too, just because a couple of things. When you play singles, you want to serve bigger, you want to hit the return bigger, and it really gets you moving, and it's tough on the body. And I think if you're playing singles and you're used to covering the entire court and just hitting the return, as deep and hard as you pretty much can, and hitting the serve as deep as hard as you can, then you go on to the doubles court, or the mixed doubles court, and next thing you know, you're only covering half the court. So I think that's definitely something that makes it feel easier to play doubles. I don't normally sign up for singles, but now I'm playing a lot of singles. I think I'm, going to be practicing singles more, and I'm actually signed up for singles the next 3 tournaments that I'll be playing. So that's something that is interesting, just to kind of give it a try. And one of the things with singles is make sure you stretch a lot beforehand. You definitely want to get a good warm up before your singles, because it is physical and it is easy to get hurt. After I played singles, I had a couple little things that were hurting me a little, but luckily I felt fine enough to play and make the mixed doubles semi, and we had some great wins. We had a great win in the second round over CJ Klinger and Mari Humberg, and then in the quarterfinal we had another great win over Hayden Patrick-Quinn and Rachel Rohrbacher. And I was playing with Tyra Black, who played exceptionally well, and we just cruised in the quarters. It was 11-3, 11-3. We both played amazing. And I think Rachel and Hayden were a little bit off their game, but otherwise, we're still happy to take the win, and then making the semis was awesome too. So one of the things I learned too, coming from singles to mixed, I think would be that when you're playing singles, you are usually trying to hit the return deep and hard as opposed to just deep. I think playing singles, it's big to, if you're going to be hitting the return, try to get some pace on it, because the harder you hit it to them, of course, it's going to travel in the air a little more quickly. But I think it's actually not that easy to hit a great third off of a hard return, not just depth. People talk about depth on the serve and the return. I think you should, especially in singles, hit those balls hard. Use your legs, create some pace. Staying down on the return was big for me this weekend too. I played, so in the second round, in singles, I beat Jaume Martinez-Vich. And in the third round, I beat Zane Ford. In the quarterfinals, I lost, but we don't need to talk about that. I lost to Quang Duong, who played really well. And the main thing I learned, or I felt with Quang, was that his serve was not only just deep, but it was hard. There was a lot of pace, and it was penetrating through the court, and his return was also deep and hard as well. So it's not just about depth. If you can hit a deep, penetrating serve and return, that will be a big, big factor in singles, let alone also, of course, doubles. And the thing with the return is, it's not about the topspin that you generate on the return. So a lot of the best singles players, they're not hitting a ton of topspin on the return. They're kind of just going flat through the court and hard. And that's what I like to do also. I think it's worth it. If you're going to miss, 1 out of 10 returns deep or 1 out of 15 returns deep, just because you're trying to put some pace on it and hit it hard, I think that is totally fine. You want to watch the pros and see the pros as a reason of, or as an example of who to copy. in situations, and the pros are hitting their return and serve hard very often. So that's one thing. The other thing too that I think singles helped me with was really just being ready to move left or right when I saw my opponent was making contact with their third shot drive. So instead of just standing still and just, of course you want to stop when they're hitting and split step when they're hitting, but a lot of players at the rec level, you'll see them just stop and hit when their opponent's hitting that third shot. Really, it's a little more than that. It's also you're stopped and you're ready, but you're very much in an athletic stance, ready to move from left to right if you need to. And that, I think, is something that's a bit overlooked. It's not about, you don't have to be the best athlete in the world to play pickleball, but you do want to maximize the athleticism that you do have. And one of the things that I've been teaching my students, which I think has been helping them, it definitely has helped Max Freeman on his ascent to being maybe the most improved player. It is always do more with your legs and less with your hands. So the more that you're doing with your legs and the less you're doing with your hands, I think the easier it is to be consistent, the more repeatable your shots will be. And I think the main reason for that is because the less you're doing with your hands, the easier it is to do that same thing over and over and over. If you do less with your legs and more with your hands, I think there's a little more that can go wrong, and it's harder to repeat that motion. And in pickleball, less is always more. The more you can repeat the motion, the better. Because at the end of the day, at the top of the game, the best players are just more consistent with their aggression. So they're not just making the ball and just pushing the ball in. Of course, they're being aggressive, but they're more consistent with their aggression. And I think that generally will come from small, repeatable swings and practiced swings. Hey guys, James Ignatowich here. Just want to tell you about the new Selkirk 008. I've been loving the paddle. It's got the new pure foam technology. It's got a ton of grit, ton of pop. I feel like the control is great also, and it's coming in the different shapes. You can get it in the tour shape, you can get it in the epic shape or the Invicta shape. So you'll have all the options you need. Definitely give the 008 a try because I think it's something that you will not want to miss. So another thing we noticed in mixed doubles, I think a lot of it was that the female players were taking almost as much court on third shots as the male players were. So when I play mixed doubles, I was letting Tyra take probably, 45% of the court on our third shots. So I wasn't just taking the entire court on the third. And I think you'll see that a lot in the pro game at the kitchen, or if they're back and I'm keeping them back when I'm hitting fourths. And let's say you're playing against me, you just hit a serve, Tyra, my partner, is returning, and I'm a bit there at the kitchen trying to keep you back while you guys advance in. I will try to take any ball out of the air that I can. And that basically means 100% of the court if possible, right? I'm just trying to be as aggressive as possible. And in general, when I'm at the kitchen, I'll be taking probably, 70% of the court. And that's something that you can see all of the top male pros do. There's a reason for it. Obviously, we can just reach more, we can be more aggressive, and we can hit the ball harder, which can put more pressure on the opposing team. But back there at the baseline, if I let my partner, Tyra in this case, take the third shot that's kind of closer to the middle, it gives me the opportunity to go up there and crash. And I've been doing that more. So I've actually been conceding even more of the court at the baseline. And I might take more court at the baseline when I am able to switch to a paddle with, maybe there's a paddle that I can have more confidence in my thirds. One of the Selkirks, of course, right? Maybe something that could have, I can take more thirds and I can get some more dip on my drives. Because right now when I'm hitting thirds, I'm kind of going a little more flat through the court, and it's a little tougher sometimes for my partner to crash off those. So yeah, if you've got a paddle with some good dwell time and control, then it's a different situation. Then you can actually hit a third shot that is slower but lower. So instead of like a full flat drive, it's something that's like a 70% drive that is lower, and then it's going to be bouncing maybe 5 or 6 feet past the kitchen, and then it gives you enough time to go crash off of it. So yeah, there's a lot of different nuances to it. I think I'm talking in circles a little bit right now, guys. I had the tournament just got done, and I flew back, and my flight got delayed from 11 a.m. to like 2:40 a.m. So it went from an all-nighter to a really, really all-nighter, and then I just gave a talk. I woke up, I slept for 2 hours, and I gave like a talk / Q&A thing at the Directors Club in Boca. And I did my best. And then 30 minutes later, now we're recording a podcast. So things have gotten pretty tough out here, but it's dedication. It's dedication to Josh. That's dedication to Team Selkirk. So anyway, let's see. What else is another thing here? One thing that I'm noticing in men's doubles, and they say this all the time, and I think I heard CJ Klinger say this on YouTube, and he tends to be right about the things that he says because he doesn't talk much, and when he does, it seems to be fact. Most of the winners in doubles, I think especially men's doubles, most of those winners, when both players are at the kitchen, they go through the middle. So this is a fun fact. Most winners go through the middle. And if you watch the pros, there's a reason that, especially in men's pro doubles, the players are closer together so as to prevent these winners from going through the middle. So you might ask, why do more winners go through the middle than down the sideline? Well, the sideline net is a couple inches higher. There's a little less space over there. And the middle, lower net, and you can go cross court. If you hit a shot cross court, it will go through the middle, right? That's how it works for the most part. So cross court, obviously, there's the most distance, there's the most geometry in the court. So really lock down that middle. I was watching a lot of 4-0s play, actually, because we were doing like a little, actually, I can't talk about why, but I've been watching a lot of 4-0s play for a reason that I can't explain yet, but it's a fun thing that I'll introduce maybe in a couple episodes. And I think the biggest thing I've noticed with 4-0s from their play is just that there's too much space in between them. There's too many winners that are being hit through the middle. And then when balls do go through the middle that are slow, there's a lot of paddle clanking that gets done. So it's not just about communication. Coaches will say, oh, you've got to talk early and make sure, the left side player takes this, the right side player takes this. And of course, that's the case. You definitely want to have communication. And you want to have some sort of feeling of like you're a team with your partner and you know who's taking what. But at the end of the day, I think a good quick fix, or at least a temporary thing that will help you guys, is just to be a little closer together, especially when you're at the kitchen. I think you guys are too far from each other in general. It creates too much space in the middle and it makes it harder to cover that middle. If you watch the pros, you'll see almost always they are simply closer together than players of lower levels. And I do not think that is a coincidence. Another thing that I'm noticing, because I've been watching a lot of 4-0s playing, is just that when they are in transition, when they're resetting, they're not giving themselves enough space. A lot of times they'll just stand there and wait and try to reset the ball. If you're in the transition zone and somebody's about to hit the ball up here at you, there's two things that you should be doing. Firstly, I would just be committing to the backhand for the most part. You can cover your whole body with the backhand. You can't do so with the forehand. With the forehand, it cuts off about halfway in the middle of your chest. Backhand, you can cover all of this. And if somebody's going to crush the ball at you with a lot of pace, you don't really have time to switch from backhand to forehand. You kind of just want to use the backhand and cover the entirety of your body. So that's one thing. And I think you'll notice that pros are doing this a little more commonly, I think, than players that are not pros. But the other thing, too, is get back quickly. Like, there's no harm in getting back. And if you are moving while I'm hitting the ball just a little, that's okay. Everybody's so afraid of like, oh, well, I'm in transition, I got to run back, but I can't run back too fast because I have to be fully stopped by the time James makes contact with the shoulder high ball. Like, well, if I'm going to destroy this ball at you, I think you should get back as quickly as you can. And if you're still moving just a little bit while I make contact with it, that is not the worst thing in the world. And I think the prime example of that is Tyra Black. She's the best defensive player in pickleball, male or female. This is common knowledge. I think anybody would tell you this. I mean, I couldn't think of a player I have a harder time putting an overhead away against than her, outside of maybe Riley Newman. And she will oftentimes still be moving by the time I'm making contact. She doesn't just stop her feet and plant and then reach. You don't just stop your feet, plant, and then reach for the ball. I think the most efficient way to do it is actually just get backwards as quickly as possible, because every step that you take backwards is still more time that you are giving yourself in anticipation of that overhead that your opponent is hitting. So keep that in mind. Just run backwards quickly and then try to hit either a low, slower drive or just hit a lob, hit a high lob. Tyra will hit a high lob, which does a couple things for her that I think are very, very helpful. The first thing is the higher the lob is, the more time she has to get into perfect position to handle the next ball. If it's a high lob, you give yourself all the time in the world. Okay, I'm going to get back. I'm going to be ready for this next overhead. I'm going to be in better position to deal with this next overhead so that I can then hit a more effective shot and then work my way back up to the kitchen. The second thing with a higher lob is if it's windy, especially at lower levels, the higher the lob is, the more likely that lob is to generate a overhead mistake from your opponent. So keep those things in mind. I think it'll be super helpful. And I also had a question that I guess I should address. People were wondering about the handshake in the match with Hayden and Rachel and myself in the quarterfinals, the match where Tyra Black and I beat Hayden and Rachel 11-3, 11-3 in the quarters. Great match. We played amazing. Mostly Tyra. I'll give her most of the credit for it. But there was just some chirping going on from Hayden and Rachel towards me, and then like they didn't want to tap my paddle actually after the first game or the second game, and I didn't really know what that was all about because I have only ever been nice to them, and I think they're both great. I think it's funny. Rachel is my favorite female player to watch, and Hayden has an amazing game. I've actually copied a couple of Hayden's shots. When I taught Ryan Fu and Max Freeman, I referenced Hayden a couple times, like, hey, Hayden does this, that's really special, and this is what you should do. So I've always been big fans of both of them. So I know there was some speculation like, oh, do James and Hayden not like each other, or James and Rachel not like each other? I don't really know where that came from. I think they might have just been in a bad mood or something. You never know what that stuff has. But as far as that, I don't think there's any issues because maybe they don't like me, but that's okay because I still like them. I'm huge fans of them, and that's all that really matters. You can't control what other people think. So that's all. Thanks for watching.